Hey guys, welcome back. This no big chocolate tart recipe is to die for. It's incredibly easy with just a few steps. The crisp crust is topped by the rich, luxurious chocolate ganache, which is offset by this gooey caramel sauce that tops this dish for me. So let's get cooking. The first thing we're going to make is going to be the base for the tart. Now you can actually buy a ready-made a tart mold from the market, which is pre-cooked, and fill it up. Also, being a non-cooking tart is a cold tart, it doesn't need too much of work well ahead. So if you can buy a ready-made tart, it makes life easy to use that. I'm going to show you a very simple technique of how you can make the base at home. I've got butter cookies here. You also can use digestive biscuits. It works very well. Break it up into smaller pieces before you put it into your food processor. Now at this stage, if you want, you can also add cardamom powder, cinnamon powder, or you can add some fennel seeds. The choice is yours if you want to add any flavoring. To sweeten it slightly, I will add some sugar and then just whisk it up into a powder form. There you go. It forms like a crumb-like texture. Now this goes into a bowl. Now to make that into a firm state, you need to add some kind of a fat or some kind of an oil. You can use melted butter, but I'm going to use coconut oil. And you mix it up till you form it like a dough or a wet crumble. There we go. The mixture is now ready. I'm going to get a tart mold or a pie tin, and I've got this non-stick kind of a tin here. I've lightly greased it with oil, and in that goes in my biscuit mixture. I'm going to spoon all of that in. Then the back of the spoon, you spread it all along the base and along the sides. So make sure you press it down quite firmly so the crumbs stick together. And when you cool this down, this becomes a nice hard shell, and that holds the chocolate mixture together. Once you pour the chocolate mixture in, it will hold it well. Again, all the way on the edges. And what you can do is with your fingers, you can lightly press it down. And once the bottom is done, then you move to the sides and press it to the sides. There you are. This is now ready to go in the fridge for a good 20 minutes for it to become firm. The next part of the dish is to make our salted caramel. Now there is a technique of actually how you should caramelize the sugar. The most important thing is you need a heavy bottom pan to retain the heat. I'm using a heavy bottom non-stick pan, which is fine. You never ever stir the sugar while it's caramelizing, and the reason for that is the sugar tends to stick onto the spoon and it doesn't get evenly caramelized. The best way is to leave it on the heat, start it on a high heat, reduce the heat down and let the sugar break down on its own. And as the sugar breaks down on its own, it begins to melt. You can always turn this pan or swirl the pan to spread the sugar. And as soon as the sugar begins to soften and becomes melted off, it then changes into a nice caramel color. Once it's caramelized, only then do you add in your spoon or a spatula to stir the sugar with the other ingredients. Other than that, you never ever touch the sugar. Now you see the pan has got quite hot. I'm going to reduce the heat, and also if you notice the sugar has begun to melt. And at this stage, all I do is lightly swirl the pan so the sugar spreads evenly and caramelizes. There, you see that? Look at the color and look at the sugar. It's all melted. Once the sugar is melted and you get the very nice golden caramel color to the sugar, is you add in, that's when you add in the cream. You stir it all together. The sugar will tend to solidify slightly because the cream is at a colder temperature compared to the sugar, but it melts through, and once the sugar melts through, it will leave its nice beautiful caramel color. I'm going to increase the heat and bring it to a rapid boil. Again, reduce it down, let it simmer gently, and then add in my roasted almond. Now you can add any nuts you like. You want to add peanuts, you want to add pistachio, you want to add walnuts, cashew nuts, your choice. I'm using just roasted almonds which have been coarsely crushed. To again cook this mixture till it becomes slightly thick. And don't forget, once this mixture cools down, the caramel cools down, it does become thicker on its own. So it's very easy to spread onto the tart. So that's our caramel sauce almost ready. The last thing I'm going to add is enrich this with some butter. The butter gives it a very nice kind of a flavor to it, a kind of a smooth finish to it. I'm going to reduce the heat until the butter melts. I'm now going to add some salt. I have used salted butter. It gives a nice flavor, but I'm also going to add some Himalayan salt, which is the pink salt. You can use a sea salt, it works well, but I personally quite like Himalayan salt. So a generous quantity of salt. It is a salted caramel at the end of the day, and it gives a very nice flavor with dark chocolate. Stir the mixture again, make sure the salt mixes well and the butter melts and adds to the sauce, and the butter gives a very nice gloss. I'm going to switch off the heat and let the mixture cool down. Now once the mixture cools down, this will become slightly firmer. It won't be as runny as this. Also the butter solidifies, so it holds the caramel quite well. So when we cut the tart, you'll see the lovely beautiful caramel color, and because it's a cold tart, the butter holds it well. There you go. So this is now ready, and the last part for the dish is to make the chocolate filling. For the chocolate, I am using dark chocolate. So I like really bitter dark chocolate that's been melted in the microwave. Now in this, I am going to add some cream, but first a little swirl just to make sure that there are not any large chunks. Just makes it a bit smooth, and then goes in the cream. And also what I will add is a tiny quantity of butter, but first the cream. Now cream has been on the stove for a while just to make sure that it is nice and warm. Now this helps the chocolate to really melt and turn smooth. And I'm also going to add in butter. Now the butter gives it a very nice mouthfeel, gives a very nice rich flavor, a buttery flavor to the chocolate. The chocolate on its own also has a good quantity of butter, but when you add a normal butter to it, It enhances the flavor of the chocolate. And also remember, once this mixture cools down, the fats inside the chocolate, the cocoa butter, and the butter and the cream will solidify and become firm. So when you cut your pie or your tart, you get a very nice cut, but what you get is a very nice mouthfeel to the dish. So we'll stir this together till it becomes nice and smooth. The chocolate, butter and the cream mixture has blended very nicely, and you look at this lovely little smooth mixture which has been formed, which will solidify. But the best thing is the glaze. It's a lovely shine, and the shine comes because of the butter. The butter has lightly, gently folded into the mixture and give it a very nice gloss to the filling. I'm going to keep it aside, let this slightly cool down, and then we're going to fill in our tart. That's the tart from the fridge. It's become nice and firm. So the butter has solidified, holding the tart base quite well. In this goes in my mixture of the almond and the caramel. So I'm just going to pour it in the center. The spatula, all you do is spread that evenly at the bottom. This is going to go back into the fridge for another 5 to 8 minutes for the caramel to become slightly firm, and then goes in our chocolate mixture. The salted caramel has now set, become firm, just the way I wanted it. And now all that I do is pour my chocolate and cream mixture on the top. There we go. Look at the lovely color. The chocolate is all poured into the tart. This will now go in the fridge for a good 30 to 45 minutes for the chocolate to harden. The tart is now ready. The chocolate is nice and firm. And all I'm going to do now is going to remove the tart from the mold. Here we are. Lay it down. The best way to cut the tart is to use a very sharp knife which is slightly heated up and wiped clean and wiped dry. The heat helps to actually melt the chocolate, and as you cut, what you will get is a very nice clean cut. So here you go, the first one. Dip it into hot water just to make sure it's nice and clean. And then I'll cut. Let's have a look. There we go. Look at this. Nice, rich chocolate tart. A beautiful layer of the crust, nice and crunchy. A gooey center of the caramel, salted caramel, and the rich dark chocolate ganache. So there you have it. A very simple recipe, just a few steps, but the crunchy contrast of the crust with the gooey center and the rich dark chocolate and the salty flavor is just incredible. So make sure you try it at home, make it for your friends and family, and do not forget to tag me. So until next time, happy cooking.